Yeah, we're probably known for Liquidium.fi, which is an Ordinals and Runes peer-to-peer based lending platform where we have had over 120,000 loans and almost $500 million in volume. We've shifted to cross-chain lending now, or developing a new product, which is Liquidium.fi. We saw the need for cross-chain loans when people asked us, like, hey, how can I actually borrow against my Bitcoin without wrapping, without bridging, and all of that tedious stuff? And we really saw a need for people to borrow stablecoins against Bitcoin, make their Bitcoin usable in traditional DeFi and lending applications. Yeah, so the big problem right now is that if somebody wants to borrow against their Bitcoin, they have to, usually they have their Bitcoin on a cold wallet or on an exchange or even on a hot wallet, a Bitcoin wallet. Right now, they have to send their Bitcoin to some sort of wrapping solution, wait to get their wrap BTC on Ethereum, now have that wrap BTC on an Ethereum wallet, load that Ethereum wallet up with ETH to fund the network fees, and then they can use something like Aave or Compound. And that's a huge friction point that we're trying to eliminate by essentially letting people supply native Bitcoin from their centralized exchange directly, or from their cold wallet, or even from their Bitcoin hot wallet. So in my opinion, there are three main downsides to the current solutions that we have to bring Bitcoin into DeFi. Number one is that you have to trust a single entity to handle your funds, and that one entity controls your Bitcoin at that point. And then secondly is that with trusting a single entity, there's not only the point that you trust the entity, but also that they can mess around with your funds, and there can also be exploits. Somebody could hack into their system and exploit the bridges. And we've seen that numerous times. And then thirdly, with the bad user experience, there comes a lot of user friction and potential user error points, where right now, if you want to bridge your Bitcoin, you have to send it to an address, then put in your receiving address. And there's a lot that can go wrong there. Just a small typo will let you lose your funds. And we're trying to avoid that and just making it as smooth as possible. So one of my core beliefs is that security is super important for DeFi platforms. And we have been around for over 3 years. We have had massive amounts of funds, and we have not had a single exploit or hack happening. And we take that very seriously. And the same goes for our cross-chain application. Liquidium is completely decentralized and trustless. It's on a distributed network, which means there is no single point of failure where there could be a bad actor and steal funds, but you have to have consensus over the network, which makes it extremely robust and secure. And when it comes to the user, we have made it extremely simple so you can't mess up your funds and accidentally transfer them somewhere else. It's literally, you connect your wallet, you click one button, that supplies your Bitcoin, you click another button, that borrows the Bitcoin. So it's super frictionless, and we reduce the amount of user error as much as possible. Liquidium is very simple for users who want to put their Bitcoin to work or want to get liquidity against it. You simply connect your Bitcoin wallet that you either already have, or if you use a centralized exchange or a cold wallet, you can literally just deposit right to the platform, just native Bitcoin into the platform, and then that Bitcoin becomes available on the platform extremely quickly, where you can then borrow USDT, for example, against it. The cool thing is you literally connect your Bitcoin wallet and your Ethereum wallet to the platform, and then you send Bitcoin in, native Bitcoin in, and you get USDT out as a borrower, for example. And whenever you want to repay, you just repay the USDT where you got it, and then you get native Bitcoin back into your Bitcoin wallet. At launch, you will be able to deposit native Bitcoin, borrow USDT on Ethereum against it, or the other way around. So you can supply USDT on Ethereum and then borrow Bitcoin against it. And the goal here is to really expand into multiple assets and multiple chains, as many as we can, so that you can connect your Solana wallet, borrow some Solana, have ETH on Ethereum as well, maybe borrow some Solana against ETH, and ICP is on the roadmap as well. So multiple chains, multiple assets to just make it very frictionless to borrow against all assets on all chains. The difference between the traditional lending DeFi landscape that we have right now in Liquidium is that in the current lending DeFi apps, you have isolated pools per chain, which means you have like an ETH pool and a USDT pool on Polygon, then you have one ETH and USDT pool on Ethereum, but there is no way to borrow USDT on Polygon against your ETH on Ethereum, for example. And what we do inherently different is that we connect these chains with each other, so you can borrow an asset on another chain against an asset on another chain. So there are two parts of it. One is we already have DeFi on Ethereum with around $40 billion, for example, in TVL on Aave in lending. And out of these $40 billion, there is around $5 billion in wrapped Bitcoin right now. So that's a huge chunk of the Ethereum DeFi lending value, essentially. So we can give these people that currently use Ethereum DeFi for their Bitcoin lending an opportunity to use it with their native Bitcoin. And then the other part is that there is over $1 trillion sitting in Bitcoin, mostly sitting idle. And most of these people don't want to sell their Bitcoin. They want to keep holding onto the Bitcoin. These are institutions. These are companies with treasury sheets in Bitcoin, and also just retail users. And they can keep holding onto their Bitcoin by borrowing against it with an easy solution. To give an example, like let's say you're a miner and you have most of your money in Bitcoin right now, and the mining operations also earn you Bitcoin. So you basically have no touching points of fiat, but now suddenly you have to spend fiat. So there's one way, which is essentially just selling your Bitcoin. And let's assume the Bitcoin price is growing over time. Now what happens is if you have your Bitcoin, you kind of like have the Bitcoin value growth. And then if you sell, your portfolio value just flatlines because you got rid of your Bitcoin. In the other example is that you can, like if you have your Bitcoin, you can use it as collateral, which means you can keep holding on to your Bitcoin. The Bitcoin keeps growing and you just still unlock liquidity against the Bitcoin and can use the liquidity for whatever you need, but you don't get rid of your Bitcoin. So our team at Liquidium has worked incredibly hard to make the user experience as good as it gets and remove all of the friction from the processes. So you won't get that anywhere else. I think that experience is very unique. And besides that, you also are able to unlock new experiences and new opportunities that you didn't have before. Like, for example, moving liquidity around chains quickly, dabbling around in other ecosystems without selling your assets on the other ecosystem, and so on. So the amount of opportunities, yield opportunities, liquidity opportunities, and the user experience and frictionless experience that the user gets makes Liquidium very unique. If you're not using Liquidium yet, it's currently invite only, which means if you have a friend who already has access, you can ask them for an invite code, or else you can go to Liquidium.fi and learn more about it and also join the waitlist to get access soon.